Welcome to polyplane.com. I hope you guys enjoyed the object manipulation series. That was really fun to do. So today we're gonna get into a little more of an advanced step in your 3D modeling. If you are new to the site, I highly recommend you check out the pre-flight section that can be found at polyplane.com/preflight. What we're going to be talking about today is called lofting. This is a simple operation where you're essentially creating a surface or a series of surfaces by way of a set of open or closed curves. It's a really easy thing to think about. I'm going to show you one example of it, and I think you'll immediately probably get it once I start showing it. So we've got three curves here, one that's got three sides, one that's more of a curve, and then one that looks like it's only two-sided, but if you look really close, it's actually three. And the reason I did that is so that you can understand how the curves of this surface are going to be generated. So I'm going to go ahead and you can either select all the curves and then type loft, or you can type loft and then select all your curves. So I will type loft, and then what I'm going to do is select the curves that I want to loft. So hit enter, and this little prompt is going to come up, and there's some few options here. I don't really want to get into these, but we can just preview through some of them to give you an idea of what they do. So one's loose, there's tight, which is essentially defining what the cross sections are doing and how that surface is laying across there. There's straight sections, which gives it sort of a more angular feel. You can choose developable, which gives you a little more if you're going to select points on the surface. This is a good one to use. And then uniform. I usually stick with normal or loose. And I also like to rebuild my geometry, and then you can get a little bit more control out of your surface by doing that. But what I want to show you here is I'm going to undo that so we just have our original control curves in there. I'm not going to simplify it or rebuild it. And what this is going to do is going to allow me to show you how the points kind of travel across the surface. So over here with our first curve, with our first curve here, there were 4 points, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what they did was they traveled across, they hit this curve in the middle, and then they finally ended up here on the back end. And you can see how they traveled. Now the reason they traveled like this is because each of these cross sections has a series of points that make up the curve, and the surface is kind of obeying those points along each one of those curves. It's saying, okay, for instance, this curve that travels along right here starts here, and then to make it get to this last point here, it has to do the math to figure out, okay, where on this other curve does it have to hit? So what does this mean? What is, okay, you've essentially just made a weird surface. Well, think about all of those car fenders that you've seen in 3D models, or you have some crazy product bottle. More often than not, the loft tool is a great tool to use to get those kind of shapes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rebuild all of these curves, and I'm going to give them a point count of like 100. And then I'm going to loft. And I can really see how those points really translate across the surface to create the surface. Now, you don't have to have just 3 curves. You could have any number of curves. The minimum is 2. And again, they can be open or they can be closed. So with a closed curve loft, what you can do is either type loft, or if you don't feel like typing it, you can come up here to surface and click on loft, or go to the surfacing tools, and the loft is right there. So this is really important to select the curves in the right order that you want them to, because it's going to determine how everything kind of lofts together. So if I click this one, then this one, and then this one, what'll happen is, you'll get a form, and that form might be what you're looking for, but what I wanted and what I'm sure you expected was something a little more like this. So you can really see here how the loft kind of affects a surface. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you what a closed loft looks like. If I were to do this now, what happens is it gets all kind of bloaty and funky. We want to define an inside profile. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to copy and paste the curves that we have and just scale them down. Scale 2D. So now we've got these forms, and I'm going to take this curve and I'm going to bring it in. Oops. I'm going to bring that one in, delete that, and mirror the other. Okay, so we've got all these crazy curves, and if I were to loft these in order right now, I'll move this one over just so it works. Like if we were to just select them and, you know, let the computer kind of figure out what we want, we get a kind of a cool funky shape, but that's not actually what I was intending. So what I really want to do is loft it like this. I want to select this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, and this one. Enter. And we're going to make that a closed loft. Okay. And see, now it's creating sort of this bloated form that actually has like a wall thickness to it. But what's cool about this is with three general shapes, the two outer curves and the central ring, and then, you know, the inset ones, you actually have created a pretty cool dynamic surface in just one operation. And then you could actually take this and trim it up and apply those shapes that you extract off of this for something else. So say I were to split this form that I've created, you know, you can start to extract some really neat shapes. So what this helps you do is kind of think about how things kind of work together to create a surface. And this is really important. The next premium video that I'm going to be offering in the store is all about surfacing and how to really look at a form, assess it, and start to create some cool shapes. So look out for that in the next few weeks. This should give you a pretty good idea of how the loft works and how you can sort of start to apply it to create some cool surfaces. One last thing to keep in mind too is there's a little selection thing here. Let me delete all this. And I'm going to loft these again. And you'll notice it says align curves here. So if what that's doing is it's flipping the direction that the initial curve is generated in. So if I show you the direction of the curve here, you can see it's going along the curve if I'm looking at it from this view clockwise. And likewise, all of them are doing this. Oh, actually, this one needs to be flipped. Okay, so now they're all going the same direction. And when I use the loft tool, the loft is actually looking at those directions. So if I flip this one around, this middle curve, its direction is actually going the opposite of the other one. So we don't want that. We want them all to be always going the same direction. So if you ever are doing the loft and you get something that winds up looking kind of funky like this, try adjusting the curves first before you get too frustrated with yourself. So yeah, that is the loft tool. And next week we're going to start to dive into the sweep tools. I'm going to break that up into two parts, sweep 1 and sweep 2, because they're kind of cool, and you're going to use them a lot, and I'm going to show you a way that you can actually start to create some of these surfaces using 4 outer perimeter curves versus just the 1 and the 2 and then something in the middle, because the loft tool actually, it uses a soft curve. Say I were to scale this middle one in, say it was like that. How do you know what this outer edge is going to be? Well, with the loft tool, the computer kind of just takes a soft curve and, you know, tries to figure out what you mean. I'll show you another version of this. What if you had some curves that look like this, where it actually went around a bend? Okay, I take that and I loft it. Well, see, now you can see how the edges of that are kind of being defined. The computer is just giving it a soft curve. So if you want to define that more, this is where we're going to get into the 2-rail sweep, where we're actually going to define what these outer edges look like. So stay tuned for that. That'll be next week. Yeah, so thanks so much for watching and have a great day.